Welcome everybody on this beautiful evening. Beautiful evening. I'm Bruno. I'm your host for today's live stream here in the Product People community. Just a quick reminder for those who are here in Zoom, we're just live now. So if you please feel free to turn off your camera if you don't feel comfortable on sharing your image through our platforms that are previously shared. And now I will begin our live stream presenting the topic that we're going to discuss today and hear and learn a lot from our speaker, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly of product vision and product strategy, uh, directly from a FREENOW expert that we have on the call. And I think it will be a really helpful session for product managers that are really interested in understanding about product vision and product strategy so far. I'll give a quick intro about myself. I'm Bruno Rosende. I'm Associate Product Management Consultant 2 here in Product People. I will not enter in details. My CV is basically on the screen. So I've been with Product People for this whole year, and I'm really happy to join and to listen a lot from this afternoon. So just a quick intro on Product People. So what we do, we help companies discover and deliver products faster. So we empower our product community to share knowledge generously. That's why every week we have these live streams with different topics to share the knowledge generously. And our community has now over 25K members. So thank you for being part of it. And welcome for the ones that have never participated and are here for the first time. What we do all the hands-on work of a product manager on an interim basis from 3 to 36 months, and makes us unique that we onboard really fast. We align teams really quickly and deliver outcomes as much as possible. Before I pass the ball to Alin, I will just give a quick icebreaker here. We have just this couple of questions for you, and we're gonna share it here for you so you can vote. And those on the restream can answer to a pop-up that will appear shortly. And for the ones watching on other platforms, please feel free to share the answers in the comments that we will also gather this data to hear from you. So we have the two questions here. The first one is, what was your dream job when you were 6 years old? And the second one, if you could easily change the job right now, what would you do it? Would you do it, actually? Yeah. So if you could easily change jobs right now, would you do it? Yes, no, maybe. And here are some options for your dream job when you were 6 years old. I'm curious to see what people will answer for this question number one. I do have my answer that's not here, but I can share it also. Okay, good. Can see a lot of people answering, and it's good to see that we are almost done on the results. We have almost 70% of people voting. Please feel free to vote on your answers. Give just one more minute and we can pass the ball directly to our speaker of the day. Okay. All right. Who hasn't voted yet? I'll give you 10 more seconds and we can see the results. Okie dokie, the results are in. So we can see that mainly the other option was the biggest one. Mine also is in the other. I would like to be a garbage man. We have as a second place astronaut, firefighter, and artist as the third and fourth place. Okay, cool. and a lot of people actually could easily change jobs right now. So we're probably going to explore it through our speaker's live stream right now, and I'll pass the ball to him. Would like to introduce you, Alin. He's the VP of User Experience at FREENOW, and he will talk about the product strategy and product vision, the good, bad, and ugly. So please, Alin, the words is with you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for all taking the time to join me for a couple of minutes today to talk about what I learned in my career over the last 16 years, doing product strategy, product vision, and different skills. We'll talk about this in a second. I'm going to quickly share my slides so that it's a bit easier to follow what we're all talking about. And then from that point on, we'll just have a conversation. So whenever you feel that there's something interesting, just park it in the chat, and this lovely co-host will help me get back to it. So to get started, again, we're going to talk about what makes product strategy and product vision in general good, bad, or really ugly. And before I get started, I'm living in Germany for quite some time, so I'm an expat there. I haven't yet managed to learn the language, so that tells you quite a lot about my priorities. But at the same time, I've worked in agencies, startups, enterprises, freelancing, founding startups, failing startups, while founding startups, co-founding startups that were successful, or simply supporting existing companies through IC work or through managing different teams. Now, I've worked in different spaces as well. So I spent a lot of time in telecom with Vodafone, mobility through FREENOW, and MyTaxi for who will be members, the company, grocery delivery, parenting, more on the mental health of parenting, and then quite some time also in fintech. So I might have some learnings in these spaces, but again, I do not know everything. And this is just what I managed to capture from these industries. Now, to make sure that we're on the same page, I'm not going to be here to coach you on what's a product vision or what's a product strategy. Just remember these two GIFs. Backstreet Boys telling you, tell me why, right? That's very easy to remember, and that's what your product vision should be all about. Product strategy, just imagine explaining to someone in your company that's not in product, what is it that you're actually going to do and how you're going to do it. If you manage to nail these two questions, then you're probably on a good track. However, the reality of things is that this is not that easy to accomplish. So we'll do a simple bingo game here where I'm going to show you a little framework that I'm using to understand why things go sour sometimes. And you can also apply this outside from the strategy work. You can apply it in product discovery, product development, whatever it is that is usually something that requires people from different departments, from different, let's say, places of the company to work together and create something. So the framework is it's a 3x3 matrix. So you have the people aspect of things, you have the practice that usually when we talk about product refers to the craft or the value that gets created or captured, and the process to get you into different places. And then there's good things that can happen, there's bad things that can happen, and there's ugly things that can happen. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of possibilities. Hopefully you do not end up with just an ugly column or a bad column. Run if that's happening. So I'm going to talk about the most cases which are like this one. So normally you would have a situation where you have a strong team, but then again, that team works cohesive, has the right ambitions, has the right process in place, whatever that process is. I'm not going to judge that. But for some reason, they are still delivering something that it's either irrelevant to the market or to the customer, or at a poor quality standard, right? So at this point, it's not the product strategy process that you need to change, right? It's really assessing how would you know if what you're creating is relevant to the market. This is a prerequisite to doing product strategy. All of these three things are. Otherwise, no matter what you do, it's going to be extremely hard and annoying and frustrating. And we'll talk about this in a couple of slides. There's also a very good quote, which I think comes from Ravi Mehta, I think, and that says that you might have a recipe list, but if you do not have the recipe itself or what it's supposed to be creating, it's pretty much useless. And I'll give you one easy example here. I'm going to say, hey, buy some eggs, buy some bread, and make something nice. So you might make an omelet, you might make Benedict eggs. Whatever you do might not match what your customer wants. So I think this is also what's articulated here. Make sure you understand what your customer really expects from the product, how you can capture that value and provide a good value in return. So that means understanding also what your company is looking to achieve and not aim in a very different direction. Another thing that can happen, of course, is having actually a very good output in what you create in terms of the practice and having a solid process in place. However, this happens more than often that people are actually working in silos, right? So everyone is trying to protect their work. They care a lot about the personal impact they are having in the whole scheme of things, rather than what's important for the customer, right? So I think in this situation, again, you're pretty much set to fail your product strategy because everyone is going to pull in all the wrong directions. This gets a lot more complicated with the complexity of the company. If it's a startup, it's a bit easier. Let's say a startup that's in their 100 people, it's a lot easier to create that focus. But if you're an enterprise level company or over 1,000 in general, this might happen quite often. So I think in this situation, the first thing that you should make clear from the beginning is that you have to remove yourself from the equation. And one thing that I do that creates a bit of panic when I say it is the moment people enter the door to do the workshop or the start of the kickoff of the product strategy. I'm saying from this moment on, you don't have any squads anymore. So you've lost all your squads. We're starting from scratch. Just start with the customer, and then we'll figure it out, what we need, how we need, and so on. So that kind of sets the starting point from where you should aim, to improve this problem. Now, again, there's also a quote here that talks again about protecting what you know really well versus actually trying to focus on the right question, even if you don't know exactly what that answer is going to look like. So yeah, this is another prerequisite of actually doing a good strategy exercise. Now, of course, you can have great people, you can have great practice, but what happens in many companies, especially at enterprise level, it's being driven by inertia. So that means, well, we kind of did things in this way for many years, and we're still on the market, we're still successful, which works until it doesn't. So again, this is something that I've seen in many different situations, and it's just, when you look at strategy, if you've done it for a couple of times, strategy is really hard. So it's very easy to just try and pick the easiest steps to do it. So yeah, again, sticking to what you know is not always something that is going to work out if you do not adapt to the right context. Now, again, that also blocks you actually from doing innovation if that process is not bringing you the right outcomes. So make sure that you actually revisit what's important for you, adapt on the market, understand the context in which you're operating, if it's the pace that you have to adapt and go to market or something else. There's no right or wrong, but you need to be able to reassess the situation whenever the opportunity arises. So that was what happens in normal places. There's also exceptions to the rules, and that's the ugly part. And this is one example from a startup that I am supporting, where we actually don't have product market fit and we do not really have money. So making a long-term product strategy, not knowing exactly what that customer target looks like, the revenue that you can rely on, or when you get that money, it's really, really tricky. So in these situations, you probably have to focus on making sure that you understand what customers want and if they stick on the platform and if they return, right? Rather than making big plans and promising a lot of things without understanding what the future will bring you. So while this framework is very easy to understand or prevent things that could go wrong in a product strategy, that's not what the topic is really about today. We're going to talk about these things, but also in the context and the culture of the company that you're within. So some things might work for startups, some things might work for enterprises, some things might just work for me because I prefer to do things in a specific way, or I'm very curious about new things. But I'm going to share my my learnings on what I've tried, what worked for me, and why do I think they're worthy either a visit, either to learn about it. So the let's say the aspect of this is, of course, on the process part, right? I cannot jump right now and talk about people and the practice, so we can only focus on what's in that process specific that we can look to improve. And I found this really cool visual that normally talks about the creative process, but I actually felt it resembles pretty much the annual strategic process, meaning that you're starting very excited, especially if you're doing it for the very first time, thinking, oh my God, this is going to be so cool. We're going to do a lot of new things, push on creating new value, create new verticals, do this, Y, Z, and then slowly along the way, like, oh, this is not that easy as I thought it would be. So it requires more than just having ideas or being creative. Then you kind of get ambushed by all the people challenging you. What's the metric? How do you know it brings value? We do not have the knowledge. How do we acquire that? How can we promise something? So that you get really demotivated. Shit, okay, this was not a great idea and this is not good. But I'm also contributing to that. So I also feel part now of the problem. And you kind of start letting that sink in, understand what might work. And then there's this, I heard this, I think the other day, there's this gravitational pull towards mediocrity, right? I really love this sentence, right? It's exactly what happens. You get disappointed and you just go, okay, let's just do this. One more year, then we change it. So what I'm going to show is just how you can avoid different things. So at least make the process suck less, if that's one way to look at it. Now, just to get some sanity things in place, there's a lot of elements that you would need for a product vision and a product strategy. So you kind of start with the context, understanding what's happening in your industry, what's new in your industry, what's innovative there, the maturity of your company, the goals that you have set already for the company, so that it's easy to understand that full picture. And then, of course, once you know that, you kind of have to have the same view on what you believe the future looks like. Now, when we talk about the future, you'll also see there's not enough frameworks to help you define that properly, mainly because it's very opinionated, but you kind of have to blend that in also in the product vision. So trying to see how the product will evolve in time, in the future, to the problems, the new problems that your customers might face. And then again, that goes into the customers. Who are they currently? What are their struggling moments, their pains and gains, if you want to use that term? And then also get a sense of what that profile looks like versus what are you actually acquiring on your platform, and why is there, if there is a gap, why there's a gap, right? Are you selling something that was intended for someone else, but you just hit jackpot and you're now acquiring a lot of interesting customers, so you might pivot, or something goes wrong in the, let's say, the top of the funnel when you start acquiring the wrong customers. And of course, we'll go slowly towards what's that vision and the satisfaction for the customer. Where would they lead you? So what would be something that you can measure to make sure that you get there, and you can set targets, you can have goals for that. That's where the fun actually stops. And again, how do you balance? So even more friction. So how do you start prioritizing and saying no to things, starting to disappoint a lot of people, starting to make people want to leave the room. But then also, after you get back and you commit to doing all of these things, how do you go on the process of creating a healthy check-in to see how you're doing, what you're learning, and repeat these things. And then in the end, just remember that this is the 1% step, right? So you are now 1% closer to building the right thing. Does not mean that you are going to build it in the right way. So there's still a lot of things that you have to do. But I think at this point, you managed to understand what are you going to do for the next period of time. Now, to make all of these elements be relevant and be important, there's a lot of frameworks that you can use. I'm going to quickly list them. Maybe you know some of them. Maybe you want to learn more about some of them. There's the 11-star framework, which is, I think, from Brian Chesky from Airbnb, which is really good if you want to talk about vision work and understanding how do you move away from pain points to aspirational points as well. So that's something that I'll talk about later. There's, I think, 1 or 2 North Star frameworks that are coming from either John Cutler or Amplitude or someone else whom I forgot. I even came up with my own framework because I was bored from all the other frameworks that I tried. So it's called Premier League, which is really fun and at least sparks some joy when you have to think as a sport team. There's the Reforce strategy, which is really, really good, very robust. It's quite new. That's, I think, one of the ones that I recently discovered and try to use as much as I can from it. There's the jobs to be done, which is extremely powerful, especially on specific aspects of the product strategy. You might all know the pillar strategy, which looks exactly like that emoji. You have different pillars, and they all apparently will help you make money. So again, similar to a North Star metric framework, very traditional, very classic. There's Blue Ocean strategy, which typically is more focused at the company level, but it works really great also for product. So I tried it a couple of times, especially with startups, or actually also in larger companies. And it's a really great way to paint the picture in the context of your competition. I think that the racing car example specifically on growth or from other older, methodologies. There's the 3 horizons, which I think is from McKinsey. There's the value prop design, and there's even many other frameworks that I completely forgot. So I kind of gave all of them a try during the years, and I can just tell you what kind of stuck with me and why they stuck with me. So when you talk about the product vision and context, I think there's this, I don't know if you all know the 11-star exercise from Brian Chesky that kind of turned up into a framework. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it's really easy to use it. It gets creative very, very, very fast. I'll give you one example. I think when we've done this at FREENOW a couple of years ago, we said that an 11-star experience would be for us to be the first mobility platform that allows people to book trips to Mars, right? Like, that would be really cool, right? Get champagne, get a self-driving car to pick you up. We thought that Elon Musk was a cool guy back then. So we kind of said that you might be sharing that trip with him, but we might revise that nowadays. So it's very easy to use it to anchor to a point of, hey, we could actually be there in a couple of years. But it's also pretty hard to do it in early stages, mainly because you don't really know what the feature is going to look like. So we also do not have that 11-star experience. So what's treated right now in the product, which is again another good anchor point for knowing what you don't want to do. And then as an artifact, there's very good reforged material on the vision narrative, which is a great way to explain at length what the vision should be all about. The other problem is that you cannot use a framework for your audience. There is no such thing. So it's either an opportunity for you to come up with one, but normally this is just internal knowledge. So how much do you know about the customers? So you could leverage UX research, market research, App Store reviews, whatever you have internally about your customers that would help you understand what's that profile looking like, what are you acquiring, how far you are, why is that happening, so that you can then narrow it down to the problems or the struggling moments that they might have. And for that, I would really recommend you to use jobs to be done. That's really, really, really solid. It's not that complicated to use, especially if you've done journey mapping before. The problem with it is that you have to forget how to do some things, mainly because with the journey, you would talk about pain points, gain points, or needs, while with the job to be done, you're really thinking about firing or hiring someone to do that job for you. So it allows you to really anchor, into specific problems, to really understand what's happening there and how you can leverage that knowledge. Again, for differentiation, then to understand how you can do this in a different way or in a better way than your competition, there is this super cool blue ocean canvas that forces you, and that's maybe also what's hard about it. It forces you to map your competition really well and to be decisive in what are you going to do differently on the same aspect, right? So imagine Airbnb or Booking.com applying the blue ocean canvas. They would say, well, our focus would not be on personal homes, but would be on hotels. Or there's this example between Udemy, Coursera, and Masterclass, where they say, well, if you would be Masterclass, we want to focus on premium content at a premium price for these specific topics that bring value, rather than Udemy, which is like a capture all. So it allows you to really paint the picture of where do you want to anchor yourself and what you're not going to do. Then, of course, you kind of have some sort of pillar, channel, value, strategy, depends how you call it, and depends also on how your company looks like. So for that one, I'm really a fan of the Reforge one. So if you manage to go and take part into the live cohort for product strategy, just do it. I think it's quite modern. It's well-rounded. It's really robust. So they go through all these elements and they have solutions or artifacts that you can use in all these situations. And it comes from a good base of leads. So existing CPOs, existing executives that have done this at scale in multiple companies. And the problem with it is that it's a lot. So your first intention is to just go and change everything in a product organization, which is not going to happen. So you kind of have to pick your battles, see what brings value, what not, get everyone to learn about it as well. So it does require a lot of some learning curve for the entire team to digest it and then to see what from it you can apply. And then, of course, you have your typical target system using OKRs or NCTs from Reforge. The problem, I think, I would exclude NCTs, but with OKRs is that they can work. So they're well known. There's a lot of learning materials on it. The problem is that they're well known. So each one has a very strong opinion on how they should look like or how they should be written or. So you can decide on your own which one works better in that regards. And then there's no real framework for executing a product strategy, because from that point onwards, you would say, well, done. We move it to Jira or Asana, and now we execute it, right? So I think this is highly dependent on the culture, on the maturity of your team, right? You can be executing this flawlessly with the right team and with the right knowledge, or you can stumble, I think, in the first month after doing the strategy and going back to doing things the old way or inertia and so on. But I think the important part here is to kind of force this habit of looking back, so measuring, learning what has happened, why has happened, and then also adapt to it. So yeah, that's how I would normally use these frameworks. Now again, whenever I am trying to solve bigger problems, so help organizations set things up, I would refer to this more robust one. So North Star, Reforge, or Pillar, mainly because it's a good opportunity to start from something that's solid enough. So it provides a lot of material, a lot of support. Whenever I'm trying to help a specific problem or to focus on something that I know quite well, I would stick to my preferred ones. And these are the ones that also bring the most joy from running them. It doesn't have to suck to do a product strategy. So on the 11-star experience, it's really fun to do as a team. My Premier League is actually a copycat of the North Star, but it just forces you to think as a football team in a league and knowing when you're going to be offensive, when you're going to be defensive, why compliance matters in that scheme of things. And jobs to be done in Blue Ocean strategy, I kind of talked about it. They're really powerful and they bring a lot of focus on the right problems. So yeah, you can learn all of these things, right? So I kind of listed all the people who are really knowledgeable about these topics in regards to vision and strategy. If I would start with some books, I would start with Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, and Blue Ocean Strategy, mainly because it kind of helps you shape the understanding of what strategy is all about, regardless if it's a company or a product one. Product direction then starts narrowing it down towards what you can do in product and different things that you can do and apply in different situations. The infinite game will set you really well for understanding how to set the product vision, I believe. It's not, let's say, articulated at creating a product vision, but it does do a similar effect like with the Blue Ocean strategy. It understands you what else you could be doing to capture more value, to grow the business, and so on. And then escaping the build trap, it's how do you avoid all those bad situations or ugly situations, and it's written quite easy. So I would definitely also recommend you to start with that one. In case you're not a fan of books or you already know all of these things, what I typically reference to people is the Silicon Valley Product Group series on product strategy. I think there are like 5 articles that go through the same situations. Reforge, if you can do the cohort there. If you're an early startup, what I usually do is send people to read the first round review articles on product market fit. That's the most important part to learn and know why you can't do a pillar strategy right now. And then nevertheless, if you're really looking at changing things and doing things in a very different way, there's this amazing series from Gibson Biddle, the former VP of product at Netflix, and he talks about all the things that they've tried left and right. That was pretty much it in terms of the material that I prepared for today. Again, I'm not an expert on all these topics. I'm just telling you what I do when I do the product work and what brings joy when I do a product strategy, but also what could go wrong in the same path. That's pretty much it, I think, from my end.
Thank you so much, Alan. I'll just return my screen quickly here. And we can now thank everyone also for listening to the beautiful insights from Alan. So please share your questions with us by sending them on the chat on Restream or by commenting on the platforms that you're logged in right now. And while you send us over your questions, I will share a bit more about product people so we can gather some of the questions and then we enter on the Q&A with Alin. So product people, as I previously mentioned, we help companies discover and deliver great product fast. So our interim fractional product managers cover parental leaves, scale your product management team quickly, lead key initiatives while bridging the gap until a full-time employee joins, and we onboard fast, align teams, and deliver outcomes pretty good. Uh, Also, we are product coaches. So if you need to coach a product management team, you can reach out to us. We can create a streamlined process from 0 to 1, including product operations and program management. And when needed, restructure the team or scale. And also, we also help a lot in discovery processes. So we help your company discover the next impactful initiative or product. We can do market and user research to the business model, run a low or no code pilot or MVP, discover and ideate things with the team, and kick off the next iteration. And what product people are not. So we are not recruiters. We won't source candidates for you. We can help appraise candidates as well as your hiring process and successful onboarding new PO or hires, but we are not the recruiters properly said. We're not also freelance marketplace. Our team members they develop a full job consulting work inside of the company. So make sure that we're not a freelance marketplace, and we are also not a development or design agency at all. We're specialized in product management itself. For, as I mentioned, product ops, leadership, coaching, and discovery. And in case you need any developers or design, we're happy to introduce to a few of our reliable firms we've have worked with. Some of the clients that we've been working with. So for now, it's one of them, as Alin is here as the VP of User Experience. Zalando, Tier, Freeletics, Ecosia, in the B2C side. In B2B, we had Utopia, we had the World Health Organization, Remote, Sestrify, Cognigy, some other companies B2B that we've have been working on. We always have some positive feedback coming from clients, so I'm happy to share here also the testimonials that we got recently. And from the product people stats, we have 200 cross-functional teams supported by now, 40 product leaders and product managers working all across all the clients that we have, in-house and full time, so to ensure quality and the service for our clients. And it's a good number here. 60% of our team are women and 66% are in leadership of our team. So we have a strong bias to promote from within our firm and attract more women than the tech industry average, thanks to our skills before CV's hiring process. Just give a quick overview from our team. So that there are not everyone, there's a part of it. So we have quite diverse team. And also we are hiring and looking forward for new associate product management consultants, and product management roles are open. So you can apply through the link on the screen. And I think we'll be also sharing the chat as well, and also in the LinkedIn page. And also, please subscribe to our newsletter, our brand new newsletter coming out of Oven last month. So feel free to apply to the newsletter also. Now I'll enter into our Q&A. Just grab the questions here. Okay, we have a lot. I'll grab one here. So Alin, would you mind elaborating a bit further on what differs between the practice and the process on defining the product strategy and the product vision itself?
Yes, let me just try to make sure that I got the entire audience. So when we started with the slides, I showed this 3x3 framework that was saying people, practice, and processes on one hand, and then on the other side, what makes it good, bad, or ugly. People practice and processes, it's not something that I came up with. It's actually something that I learned from reading Making of a Manager by Julie Zhou, the former VP of product or UX at Facebook back in the days. So she was there describing the people aspect is very obvious, right? It's the team that that builds the product. In this case, the practice is actually what gets built, right? So what's that output? If it's features, if at which value they bring to the customer, then also the quality that gets shipped along the way. So you can define that practice as craft, or you can also apply it in tech. You can also apply it in design. It matters less, but it's typically about the craft part of things. And then the process is how are you going to actually create that output and outcome. So what are the processes that you are going to follow to make that work happen? So that's where you split between practice and processes. One will give you a structural way of moving forward and telling you what to do next. The other one is going to focus more on what are you going to deliver to your customers.
Awesome, great. I'll try to keep on the same track here that you just answered. So in practical terms, which of these tools that you presented would you advise are most useful when an existing product is struggling to find a product market fit?
None. I think I think if you're trying to find product market fit, just focus on finding product market fit. So typically you would look at measuring, I would say, even retention might be hard, depends in which stage, but measuring engagement and satisfaction. So make sure that you track those customers that go on the platform, make sure that you understand if they're coming back, why they're coming back, why they're leaving the platform. There's actually a really good way of calculating the product market fit, which is described in one of the articles from the first round reviews, by looking at, I think it was at the NPS score in that early stage, and understanding what do promoters love and hate about the product, and also what do detractors love and hate about the product. So excluding what's in between, but making sure that you understand those extremes and work on either maintaining or improving those parts. Because in the end, if you do those parts really well, your, let's say, the midpoint of your bell curve, it's also going to grow with it as well. So that's what I would do. Focus on product market fit. There's some really great articles on that. If you manage to nail that, no pressure. It may take some time. Figma needed, I think, 3 years to find product market fit. Some company needed less. If you're lucky to have funding to actually go and experiment at scale, by all means do it, but then also put a product strategy in place so that you can articulate what you're going to do with that money. So yeah, it's not that black and white. So it really matters on the context.
Awesome, great. I do have also a question I'll bring in. You mentioned that changing process culture into enterprise might be hard sometimes. There's any tips on how to make it happen whenever you want to present a good product strategy to a company that doesn't follow a product strategy at all, or even though it doesn't set any vision, any product vision, so to make a product strategy?
I think when you look at the people aspect, it really matters also have a team of very talented people to that session, or you might, but not really knowing how. Context has never seen each other face to face, right? So there's different things, different barriers that you might have to, you actually have to overcome before you put things into place. So if you're meeting for the very first time to do the product strategy work, make sure that you meet face to face, make sure that you do activities together, that you get to learn about, how each one operates, how to take their feedback, how to ask for feedback in those sessions. If you're a more developed team and each one is still driven by that inertia or that personal impact, I just gave you that example with setting the expectation clear as a moderator. So one thing that I do is whenever I start such a session, we kind of make the rules of engagement clear for everyone, right? What do we expect from the session? And then we do like a pre-mortem, right? What could go wrong? And there's things like, well, we are living in Germany and we have a very fixed time frame on when we want to do lunch. So it's like getting, as many things possible out of the way so that you can really focus and use the time to focus on doing those things. And then more radical, going there and saying, until the end of the product strategy, you do not have any teams to support, you do not have any metrics to support. We're here to understand what's important, and we'll figure the rest after, right? Which is a bit harsher, but it would hopefully drive people in the right direction.
Awesome. Great. I'll take another one from here. What's your personal take on the infinite character of a product vision? Referencing Simon Sinek's take on it. I would love to hear your opinion, and maybe you could point some limitations. Thank you.
Wow.
Great presentation, valuable insights.
I'm trying to remember exactly what Sinek was saying there. So what I think what both Sinek and Blue Ocean are talking about is in general, either I think it's creating more value for the customers. So Sinek goes on around how Google scaled, how they identified new opportunities and continue to grow in that direction. Nowadays, you might also hear people talking about, I think, categories or making your own category in which you play, which again goes in the same direction of really scaling and creating something that's unique to you. In terms of the infinite character, I'm trying to remember if this was about the growth mindset that you should always have and always challenge. And I will double check. I think it's coming from Maxime John. So if I remember what this was all about, I'll write you a message. But yeah, I don't remember more at this time.
Great, thank you. So I'll pick up on next one here. So the role as a PM needs to learn something and see things in a fresh way. However, humans very biased, true. How do you actually approach this idea of unlearn things? And there's a way to practice this in a daily basis. Do you have personal tips for giving us?
Well, there's different ways to do it. That's a really great question. I think, first of all, when you talk about unlearning things, you need to want that in the first place. Otherwise, it's not going to work no matter what you try. So it's like trying to coach someone who never asked for coaching, but was told to be coached. So it's not going to work out. It's as easy as that. So I would go about finding value, or recently I also heard about this. I think it's written in Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, but having your own board of directors in your head and think, what would, I don't know, in my head, it might be Steve Jobs because of design, and Brian Chesky. So I would say, what would Steve Jobs do when he would have to take this decision, or what would Brian Chesky do, or what would, I don't know, someone else would do, and then try to understand where they would come from. That would give you a different understanding of how to think about things. However, I think you need to get the other party to come to such a point where they are able to think in different ways. So I would just use different questions to unravel this. How else we could do it? Do you know how it's being solved in other companies? Why do you think it works better there than here? So try to move away from someone saying no to really capture their interest, to really make them care about the problem. And from there on, it's a lot easier because it's not a problem that you own, it's a problem that you share. So it's a shared goal for both of you to get better at doing this.
Yeah, great. It's a matter of awareness, I would say, right? Uh, okay, I think we have time still for at least two other questions. I have here, would you have any suggestions as to how to best position yourself to get buy-in for your team's vision and strategy from higher management stakeholders? I
This is
understand
a
that it's important
very
to
easy
make
one.
sure it's aligned with the company vision and strategy, but your team should also have ownership of their own vision and roadmap.
Correct. I think getting buy-in is so critical. And the problem that I've seen is like two extremes. Either someone goes in a room and comes back, there you go, this is your product vision, and then everyone challenges that vision. So it doesn't become dialogue, it becomes like a fight almost. The other way, the other extreme was like getting everyone involved. Like 1,000 opinions, you would then again gravity pulls towards mediocrity. Well, you'll try to find something that works for everyone, but at the same time doesn't work for everyone. So I think when we talk about product and product vision, getting, first of all, that cross-function setup involved. So understanding, putting together actually design tech product, to think about the exercise and do the exercise together works really well, because then you gain a lot of ambassadors that could continue to talk about this and know why we're doing this from the very beginning. The second thing is to kind of embrace challenges and feedback. So to say, this is what we believe right now, but we only know this. If you know more than we do, by all means, give us feedback. Tell us what we might be missing out on, or something that we can do better. And when you ask the question like that, you're also asking people not to necessarily challenge it, but to support you or to help you make it better, or at least to clarify what's still unclear. And then again, you're not just sending something, their way, but you're asking someone to support you, which works a lot better. So that's one way to get buy-in. I think it gets a bit more complicated when you have too many visions in a company. You have a company vision, you have a product vision, you have a domain vision, then you have 6 squads with visions. Like, God, how do you even align a vision to a vision to a vision to a vision? It's already hard to do company to product, and then product to marketing, and product to operations, or whatever you might have. So, it's a great exercise to do it when you have a squad for team bonding. If your manager decides to change focus for you in 3 months, you have to do it all over. So again, it highly depends on the setup, but yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, great. I think we have still more time. So when a product starts with a vision, but it gets changed or modified on the course of the journey, if you join a company in this state, which matrix will be preferable to use to align the current product to the modified vision?
So I would assume that it's a product vision that, let's say, gets a pivot, not really the company. If it's the company, it's very easy, start all over. Nothing too shameful about that. If you have to pivot, you pivot. It's better to adapt than just stick to inertia and what you've agreed. I hear this, but we've agreed to this OKR in the beginning of the year. Things change. Change is the only constant. So you have to adapt. You have to see how you can support that. It's about the product vision that gets changed. I think the first thing that you kind of need to ask is, as Backstreet Boys would say, why? If that is not clear to you, ask questions. Make sure that you first of all understand why the pivot has been made. What are the changes that are intended with that vision? It's better to ask 100 questions rather than have 100 unknowns. So ask as much until you feel comfortable that you understand, first of all, why you're doing that. And then the next best thing that you can do is to understand what are the implications on the work that you have planned against that change. Is it still relevant? Are there only a couple of parts that you have to change? And as a framework, I would say I would start with jobs to be done, just to pull one out, mainly because that will force you into understanding what's different for your customer with that vision. So what new job do you plan to do, or new value that you want to create, and how does that look like? And then from there onwards, it becomes a lot easier because you get your problem space, you can come up with new goals or new targets. So that's what I would do. But again, context matters.
Yeah, great. Yeah, totally agree. I do have one more question also that I noted. How do you easily, I would say, measure success of your strategy if your strategy is fully aligned to the vision? There's an easy way, or it's
No,
just
I don't think there's a point to it. So
Mhm.
I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. Like I sometimes go to different teams or to different startups, and I see them. How do I phrase this properly? Squeezing the KPIs to tell them the why, right? Just crunching every single number they can get hold onto to understand why is this happening? Why is this not working as intended? And it's it's done to fail. And it's the same thing with a product vision. You can't really measure product vision. What you can measure is what are the pain points that stop you from getting closer to it, what's the extreme of it, and what you want to do when you do, for example, the 11-star exercise. What is it that you can do to overcome that 5-star experience up until maybe 6, 7, 8 stars? And that becomes something that's tangible, that becomes something that you can anchor towards. You kind of have to validate if that's something that your customers would actually appreciate or value or be willing to buy. So there's still, let's say, early discovery work that you need to do there to validate if that vision is something that's attractive. You can also reframe this as value proposition and do different exercises to measure that. But that's pretty much it. So your product vision is always going to be opinionated. As a company vision, it's going to be highly determined by your CEO and what your CEO believes in. Um, Product vision, probably again, a CPO or a VP of product, depends how you structure things. So again, where do they see their contribution to achieve that company vision? So many opinions, but
Mhm.
I think with the vision, you can also be a bit more flexible in what you can do and not care too much about what you don't want to do. So it allows for more flexibility, and it's a bit easier to repurpose it over time.
Yeah, yeah, great, awesome, awesome. I think we're quite arriving the end of our session here. I would like to thank everybody and thank you, Alin, so much for sharing your insights with us, and thank you everyone from YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and LinkedIn for joining us. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us through the different channels. This live will be posted and keep posted in LinkedIn for it. So see you next time, and take care, everyone. Bye bye.